Today's text is Galatians chapter 5 and verse 1. And it says this: "Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free, and be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage." Believers must live out their freedom through the passionate pursuit of Jesus Christ. Believers must live out their freedom through the passionate pursuit of Jesus Christ. We've seen over the past few weeks that the Galatians have really struggled to live the Christian life after salvation. They had expressed faith in Christ, but now they had gone back to keeping the law in an attempt to earn God's favor. They were living as slaves, not as sons and heirs. So Paul begins here. We've covered the theological section of the book of Galatians in chapters 1 through 4. And now in chapters 5 through 6, we're really getting into the practical section of the book. And Paul starts this practical section by charging the Galatians to hold fast to the liberty that they have in Christ. Now, the command here to stand fast is both positive and negative. We see the positive aspect here in verse 1. Stand fast in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free. But if you flip over to verse 13, Paul says, "For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty, only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another." This is just like driving down a highway, and there are guardrails on both sides. And Paul in verse 1 says, "Stand fast in your liberty." And in verse 13, he says, "Oh, don't use your liberty as an occasion for the flesh." He's telling us, keep it between the guardrails. But notice that in between those guardrails, there's so much freedom in the Christian life. And Paul is challenging us to use that freedom to engage in the passionate pursuit of Jesus Christ. In Christ, there is no condemnation. Romans chapter 8 and verse 1, "There is therefore no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus." However, all of us are potential Pharisees in the making. We want to feel like we can do something to earn God's favor. And yet we've seen over and over again in this epistle that Paul has taught that we can't, but Christ did. So there's nothing that we can do to earn God's favor. Our righteousness is based solely on the work of Jesus Christ. This radical grace leads us to adoration for and genuine service to God. Romans chapter 12 verses 1 and 2 state, "I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is a reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." But in today's fundamental Christianity, I think that there's a fear that if we teach radical grace, that it will lead us to a loveless license. We have a fear that people will say, "Oh man, now I'm saved, I'm free, now I can do whatever I want, woo!" Right? But this is a misunderstanding of grace. It's an abuse of God's gift, and it demonstrates an apathy toward the work of Christ and His shed blood on the cross. That is not a life that is genuinely transformed by the gospel of Jesus Christ. We need to teach grace, because it is only there that genuine radical transformation can take place. Genuine grace that redeems us also generates true heart loyalty to Christ, the one who redeemed us and set us free. I would encourage you on your own time, go read Titus chapter 3, verses 4 through 8, and it explains how our redemption demonstrates our heart loyalty. This is the essence of freedom. We have been unshackled from our sin, and we have been freed now. We have been enabled to be transformed into the image of Jesus Christ. We are able to live out our freedom through the passionate pursuit of Jesus Christ. Brothers, embrace your freedom by passionately pursuing Jesus. That is true freedom. That is the core of the gospel and the essence of grace. Be free. Live as one who is free. May God bless and have a great week.